You're very welcome to today's talk. It's Sunday the 7th of February. Let me just show you outside because it really is a dark, cold day today. It's often like this in English winters, so it can be a bit dismal. But never mind, we're here to do the video now, so that should be interesting. Now, first thing I want to do today is the COVID symptom tracker app information. And that is basically saying that disease severity, duration of disease, symptoms of disease, likelihood of reinfection are all the same between the old variant and the new UK variant. It does confirm that the new UK variant is more transmissible, 1.35 times. So a bit of detail to come on that. And you can see there's probably going to be a bit of debate on disease severity, but we'll have to come to that. South Africa variant of concern, it looks like the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine has a degree of reduced efficacy against mild and moderate disease caused by the South Africa variant. So it's not saying the Oxford vaccine doesn't work like some of the headlines are indicating, but there might be some reduced efficacy against the South Africa variant, and it might still cause some mild and moderate disease. But again, we'll look at the details on that. More information from the COVID symptom tracker app. Vaccines give you zero protection for the first 12 days after vaccination. So for the first 2 weeks, really, to be safe, after someone's been vaccinated, you must assume you have no extra protection at all. A minimum of 12 days for any protection to kick in. But of course, we know that vaccination shouldn't change our behaviour anyway. And then we'll look at the Netherlands, where the UK variant now does seem to be over half of the cases. Half of the diagnosed positive cases seem to be the UK variant. And I don't think you need me to spell out what that can mean. It can mean exponential growth in number of cases. And the South African and Brazilian variants have also been found in the Netherlands, using the Netherlands really as an example of Europe. But we also know that the UK variant is now in more than 40 states in the United States. Perhaps in all of them, well, probably in all of them by now, but it's known to be in more than 40 states. So this is a problem. And then, if time goes well, we'll be talking to a lady called Sandy from Arizona. So that's what we have for today. If you haven't got time for the rest of the video, that's fine. Thank you for listening to the intro and the bottom line. But let's get on to the detail now for those of you that want to stay. So this is from the COVID symptom tracker app, first of all. No evidence for changes in symptoms from the UK variant. So no change in the symptoms. Now, this is always look at where the data comes from. 1.76 million users between the 28th of September and 27th of December 2020. So this is big. This is big scale data using longitudinal symptoms and test reports from 36,920 people. So this is good data. And this data is from England, Scotland, Wales. But sadly, and this really is sad, not enough people in Northern Ireland filled in the COVID symptom tracker app data to allow the statistical analysis to extend to Northern Ireland. So if you're in Northern Ireland, please download the COVID symptom tracker app, because it's really sad that that has been missed out from the UK in this data. So we don't know, unfortunately. So this is data from the other 3 countries. Now, first identified in December 20, almost certainly been around since about September, southeast of England, sometimes called the Kent variant. Study association between the regional proportion of B.1.1.7, that's the new UK variant, and reported symptoms of disease course, rate of reinfection and transmissibility. In other words, they were comparing different parts of the country with different levels of this new variant, and they came up with this data. Now, I don't pretend to understand all of the mathematical applications that Zoe and the COVID symptom tracker app use, but they are verified by some of the best statisticians in the country, so we can take their word for it. Now, disease severity was the first one. No evidence of an association between B.1.1.7 and the number of symptoms reported. Now, I'm not going to go through all the symptoms again. We've done it many times, but there's quite a few symptoms on the COVID symptom tracker app. So these are all possible symptoms. So loss of smell, high temperature, fever, persistent cough, severe tiredness, headache, abdominal pain, chest pain, sore throat, severe shortness of breath, skipping meals, muscle pains, hoarse voice, new confusion or delirium, diarrhea, skin rashes. So all fairly well-known symptoms. And what the COVID symptom tracker app has found is that the more symptoms, the greater the number of symptoms someone gets in the first week of the illness, the more severe their illness is likely to be, and the more likely they are to go on and develop long-term COVID. But they found with the new variant, people weren't getting more symptoms. And they also found that there was no evidence of an increased number of hospitalisations. So this data is showing that this new variant, the UK variant, is not causing more severe disease. Interesting. But this paper, published just recently by the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies, I'm not going to go through the details of it, but I'm going to give you the highlights of it. And this was flagged up, you might remember, by the Prime Minister, and did cause quite a lot of anxiety because he's going on sage advice. So the SAGE paper is saying that there's a realistic possibility that variant of concern B.1.1.7 is associated with increased risk of death compared to non-variant of concern viruses. And they were saying it was about 30% more. So if the rate of death in 60-year-old men was about 1% before, they're saying it's about 1.3 to 1.4% with the new variant, according to this data. But that is not held up by this COVID symptom tracker app data. Now, given that the COVID symptom tracker app data is looking at larger numbers of people, it may well be that this is correct, that the new variant is not causing more severe disease and is not causing more death, and that this early paper from the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies might turn out to be wrong, to being disproved, because it was always somewhat tentative. So that could be very good news. It may well be that this variant is not causing more severe disease, and let's hope that's the case. Disease duration between the old and new variant, no evidence for change. That's reasonable. Reported symptoms, no difference in symptoms reported. No difference in symptom duration, no difference in the proportion of asymptomatic cases. So all fine, and there's the symptoms that we've just looked at. Now, Claire Steeves is one of the lead authors of this paper, and she says this: it's important to emphasise the range of symptoms both the new and old variant can cause. So that's that long list of possible symptoms that we looked at there. And we looked at if someone gets the disease, to log your symptoms on there to see how many you get in the first week, because that's an important prognostic indicator. Such as headaches or sore throat, in addition to the classic triad. So it's not just cough, fever and loss of smell. That's what she's saying. So consider all the symptoms. Now, moving on from symptoms to reinfection rate, the likelihood of reinfection. Now, this is taken from 36,509 positive test results of people who also fill in their symptoms on the COVID symptom tracker app. 304 of those reported 2 positive tests more than 90 days apart. 249 of those were identified as being reinfection. So that many cases, that many reinfections, I haven't worked it out, but they say it's 0.7%. Sometimes it doesn't work out as an exact percentage because they have to exclude, sometimes they have to exclude certain cases, but I think that one does pretty well work out. So what's the reinfection rate for the old and the new variant? 0.7%. And of course, all of these had mild disease. None were hospitalised, which was good to know. But they were actually reinfected. So reinfection rate 0.7%, quite an important number there, but all with minimal symptoms. No difference in reinfections reported across the different NHS regions. So it's the same all over the country. About 0.7%. Confidence intervals, 95% sure that figure is between 0.6 and 0.8 reinfection rate. So about 7 people per 1,000 can be reinfected within a 3-month period, but minimally symptomatic. No evidence that this was high compared to the old strain, so fairly good news really, is in terms of the new variant. What does Tim Spector say about this? It's reassuring that infections are still really rare many months after the previous infection, suggesting that both natural immunity and vaccines will be effective against this new strain. There is some evidence that the Oxford vaccine is slightly less efficacious against the new strain, but it is a slight effect. But of course, we now have extra data to confirm that the new variant is more transmissible by a factor of 1.35. So if the R did equal 1, the R will now equal 1.35, and that's enough to make a huge difference. So regional and national lockdowns have reduced the R in real time below 1 in regions with very high proportions of B.1.1.7. In other words, the lockdown measures we are taking now are working against the higher R value of B.1.1.7. So despite this higher value, the number of cases is still going down. We are able to contain this. Tim Spector again. This research highlights the unique value of the Zoe app in understanding the impact of new coronavirus variants across the population in a matter of weeks. Lifetime data. Why am I giving them an extra plug now? And we need our app users to help us maintain vigilance against further new strains as they emerge, such as the South Africa variant, which I am concerned about. So if you live in Northern Ireland, download the COVID Symptom Tracker app. If you live anywhere, download the COVID Symptom Tracker app. We need this data. There is a real risk in the United Kingdom, all over Europe, all over the world, certainly in the United States, from the South Africa variant. And as we said, we know that the UK variant is in over 40 United States now. And the South Africa variant has reared its very ugly head there as well. South Africa variant of concern in the UK. So about 100 cases have been identified. As far as we know, there's mass door-to-door testing still going on. But as far as we know, it's still contained. Now, this is why we're having these quarantine hotels and all sorts of things, because the South Africa variant of concern is a real threat. As far as I know, it is contained within the UK. What I'm really hoping we don't hear in a few days is that there's community spread of the South Africa variant. That would be really bad news. But so far as we know, in the US and the UK, it does seem to be contained. The UK, we've got a pretty good idea it's being contained. The United States, much less so, because the genomic monitoring in the United States is so much poorer than it is in the UK. So the United States is more of an unknown. Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine offers limited protection against mild and moderate severe disease caused by the South Africa variant. In other words, if you've had the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine and you're exposed to the South Africa strain, you can still get mild and moderate disease, is what that means. AstraZeneca has not yet been able to properly establish if prevention of severe disease and hospitalisation will occur, because most of the data so far is from young adults. But AstraZeneca is confident it will protect against serious cases because it produces similar neutralising antibodies, and these are known to still work in the lab. So to summarise that, I'm really worried about the South Africa variant. The vaccines that we have now, and we don't have the data for the Pfizer and the other vaccines on this. The only data we have is for the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine on this. So the other ones may well be less efficacious as well. We simply don't know. So if someone's had the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, they then get the South Africa variant, they can still get mild or moderate disease, but it's very likely they won't get very sick or hospitalised. So still 100% worth getting the vaccine, absolutely 100%, because it's going to keep you out of hospital. Does this mean that the vaccine will have to probably be tweaked a little bit towards the end of the year? It could do if the South Africa variant becomes established. Let's hope it doesn't, but the vaccine can be tweaked. So Professor Sarah Gilbert, Oxford University team, working on a new vaccine designed to combat the South Africa variant as we speak. But as we say, hopefully it won't be necessary, because hopefully it is contained. We've had enough trouble with the UK variant. We don't want trouble all over again with the South Africa variant. This is the real big problem at the moment. This is the new UK variant has been disastrous in the UK, and is about to be in other countries soon, as we're about to see. So Professor Gilbert, this year we expect to show that the new version of the vaccine will generate antibodies that recognise new variant. So that's good, they are on top of it. It looks very much like it will be available for the autumn, so that's good. We're already working on the first part of the manufacturing process in Oxford. So this is going to work against the UK variant more efficaciously, although the vaccine does still work against the UK variant pretty well, or very well. That it will be passed on to other members of the manufacturing supply chain as we go through spring. So second generation vaccines are on their way. Does this mean we'll need to vaccinate every year for coronavirus the same as we do for flu, with a slightly adjusted vaccine to account for the genetic drifting of the virus? I think the answer to that question for the next few seasons is yes. But I also think we will be able to eradicate this virus altogether. Now, whether we can eradicate the virus altogether depends on how good we are at eradicating the virus with vaccination globally. Because if you imagine a situation where Europe and the United States and the UK have eradicated the virus and it's all virtually non-existent, but then imagine there's lots of new infections going on in Africa and Asia, then all those infections in Africa and Asia, every time the virus replicates, there's an opportunity for it to mutate. So the more viruses in the world that are replicating in the more people that are infected, the more mutations will arise. And of course, those mutations can then spread around the world. So I still think we can get rid of all this. We're going to need slightly adapted second generation, third generation, fourth generation vaccines for a few seasons, a few years. But as long as we have an aggressive vaccination, global vaccination campaign, we can eradicate this virus. We can get the numbers of the virus down to such an extent that there'll be so little replicating virus that mutations will no longer be an issue, and then we can get rid of this virus the same as SARS coronavirus 1 was got rid of. So I remain optimistic, actually, but it is going to be more difficult and longer than we'd thought. Now, also COVID symptom tracker app data, 200,000 people have been vaccinated. After 12 days, 50% reduction in new cases compared to non-vaccinated controls. But that is taking 12 days after one dose. Then there's a 53% reduction in new cases compared to non-vaccinated controls. So basically it's going to take 2 weeks for a level of immunity to kick in. It may rise slightly after that. And we know that protection against severe disease takes longer, 22 days, from other data we looked at a few days ago. But we also know that for now, vaccines must not change our behaviour. If you've been vaccinated, you must carry on following all precautions as we have been until we are told otherwise. And we most certainly haven't been yet. This is the first post-trial data that the vaccines are working after the first shot. The step that the UK took in using one shot of the vaccine is showing good efficacy. It is reducing spread. It is keeping people out of hospital. I agreed with it 100% at the time, and I agree with it 100% now. More so if that's possible. You can't get more than 100%. But I agreed with it at the time, and I agree with it now. This has been really well substantiated as the data's accumulated. So best to assume no protection at all for the first 12 days. Now, to give an illustration of the threat of this new variant, and this applies whether you're in the States, where the new UK variant is becoming the predominant variant, I'm afraid, over time. But we're going to look at the example of the Netherlands. Now, Toon is monitoring Dutch language sources for us and translating. But also there's a lot of data, for example, from the Dutch pathogenic surveillance survey, which is in English. So that's the English link there. Spread of the new variant in the Netherlands. UK variant, yes, they've got that. Lots of it. South Africa. And 2 Brazilian variants now in the Netherlands. So you can just see the potential here for... You can see the potential here for problems, can't you, with these new variants. The UK variant, this is from the pathogenic survey, which is there. Now, week of the 11th to the 17th of January, just under 20% of positively diagnosed cases were the UK variant. So pretty high. Week of the 27th to the 2nd of February, data will be out in the next next few days. But it's looking like about 2/3, about over 60% of cases are now the UK variant. So that means that basically we can expect 90% or more of the new cases in the Netherlands to be the UK variant within the next week or so. And we know that that is associated from today's data with a 35% increased transmissibility. The increase in cases are probably therefore inevitable in the Netherlands, as they've been in the UK. And I fear this could be the situation in the United States as well. South Africa variant found 23 times in the Netherlands. Most had epidemiological links to South Africa, but not all. Brazilian variants, one called P1, 2 people who recently travelled to Brazil. Okay, we can kind of understand that. Not good, but we can kind of understand it. P2 variant, 3 people, 2 with no travel history. Much more concerning. No travel history means the possibility of some community spread of this Brazilian variant. And the idea that you could have a country, doesn't matter whether it's the Netherlands, a state in America, doesn't matter, but you could potentially have growth of the South Africa, the Brazilian and the UK variants all at the same time. It's not a pleasant prospect. It really isn't. Reproductive number on the 15th of January in the Netherlands, overall below 1, which is good. The old variant, exactly as it was in the UK before our cases took off. The old variant, even with our old tier 3 restrictions, we got the R value down to 0.86. It was going down, not fast, but it was going down nicely. But on the 15th of January, at the same time in the Netherlands, while the old variant had an R value of 0.86, the UK variant had an R value of 1.28. So we can see that's becoming the predominant strain, and it is spreading much faster, much higher reproduction rate. Can therefore be deduced that the UK variant is more contagious, outcompeting the old one, and will become the main variant in the Netherlands. Therefore, there's a severe risk that cases will increase. And this is the problem with the new variants. Current restrictions in the Netherlands. Now, this is from the Dutch CDC. Check that out for yourself. That's an English language one as well. Lockdown and curfew is on now. Netherlands CDC have said, and this is important, listen, if they loosen measures now, hospitals are at risk of becoming overrun by March, by next month. So I am concerned about the new variant spread in Europe and in the United States. Right, so that's quite a lot of information today. I was going to look at some of these sites, but I'm not going to now. Look at them for yourself. There we go. Lots of COVID symptom tracker vaccine sites to peruse. Now we're going to go and listen to Sandy now, who lives in, where does Sandy live? Phoenix, Arizona. Because one of the things that I think is fascinating to do is to look at the experience of the individual in this pandemic. And Sandy has kindly agreed to share her experience of vaccination with us. So Sandy, thank you. Very kind of you to do this. And over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
I rise in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. We started our vaccination scheduling for Group 1A, which was healthcare workers, frontline workers, and I think nursing home residents, around Christmas. And so they would be getting their second shot, towards the middle to end of January. So being 78 years old put me in the second group, which was 1B here. And they had been advertising on TV and on commercials and whatnot that Group 1B would begin, they would start opening slots for 1B people, qualified people, to get their initial vaccine on January 11th. Starting at 6 a.m., I found out. So the day before I went to the website, I registered, went through all the, giving them my personal information, my, proof of age, and then they had a questionnaire about, where you work, what you do, to make sure you're in the right group. And then you had to show your medical information, although the shots were free. But I don't know, maybe they get reimbursed from insurance. So on Sunday the 10th, when I was doing this, it put me through to another link at the very end, and it says schedule your vaccination. So I went ahead and clicked it, and it took you to a site, and you had to put in the date that it started out with was January 11th, which was the following day. And there were 2 locations that popped up on the screen, and it said select a location, and so I hit one of the 2 locations that were listed, and one was on outside of town, one side west of town, the other was east of town. So I picked the one I thought was easier to get to for me, and I drive, so I was going to take myself there. So I clicked that, and the date that automatically showed up was January 11th, and it said no spaces available on that day, but click here to choose another location or a different date. So I did that, and I went through the dates all the way through the week, and I'm having major surgery on February 19th. I've recently been diagnosed with bladder cancer, and I've had 2 surgeries already, and I had to prove that I was COVID-19 free through testing to be able to even go into the hospital for my surgery. And my final major surgery, a radical cystectomy, would be February 19th. So I just had a short window of time to get both of my shots in before my surgery. And my doctor said that had to be 10 days before or 10 days after surgery, so it wouldn't interfere with my my surgery. So I went to the date of January 19th, and there were slots available. So I went ahead and clicked yes. This was on the day before it was supposed to be available to check in. So the following morning, I thought, well, I'm going to go back in, because it had said on my confirmation email that showed my little code that they have to scan, it said dose 2, and I was only there for dose 1, so they must have thought I already had 1. So I thought, I'm going to go back in on at 6 o'clock in the morning when it opened. And so I did that. I was ready to hit the button to proceed at 6 in the morning on January 11th. So I clicked the button, went through all the same thing. I had to put in all the information over again, but at least my registration, my username and password were still good. So the soonest date that I could get it was January 24th, and I had already given up my 19th for the 24th. So I was really disappointed. And a few days later, I talked to a friend, and she said, you need to unclick the 50-mile radius limitation, and maybe you can get a better date. And I thought, certainly I could, drive farther if I had to. It'd be worth it. So I went back to the website, went through all the information again, insurance and all that, and I put in the date starting. This would have been about the 13th of January. So 13th, 14th, 15th, and on the 16th, it showed slots available. So I was thrilled. Of course, I clicked it yes, gave up my January 24th slot for the 16th, which, was only a couple days away, and I was very happy. So the 16th, I drove out to this location outside of town. It went really smoothly. Lots of people helping. Checkpoints where you go in, show your code, show your identification, your insurance card, and your license proving your age. And each location, each little checkpoint had a little tablet computer, and they had my information in the computer. So it was really smooth. And she gave me a little card that she said, this is your the record of your vaccination, so keep this, and for your second shot. And she said, you'll be notified for your second shot. It'll be automatically scheduled. So I thought, well, that's good. So that would be, 21 days later for Pfizer, and soon enough before my surgery that it would be good. So I went through a couple more checkpoints, got in line in one of the maybe 10 or 12 lines to actually get the vaccine. And I got up to my turn, and there were two women there. One, I suppose, was a nurse. The other one she introduced me to was a student nurse. And she asked if it would be okay for the student nurse to give me my shot. And I said, sure. I know they're not real hard to give. And Dr. Campbell, you had said, that it's supposed to be in the fatty part of the arm. And they assured, I could see that that's where she was aiming, so I felt comfortable. And then I had to go and wait in a parking spot, and they put a little sticker on my car telling what time I could be released after the 15 minutes that I had to wait to make sure I didn't have any allergic reaction to the shot. So it was smooth. My arm didn't even hurt. I didn't even feel the vaccine, but my arm didn't hurt at all. And the only symptom I had was later that day, sometimes I take a little power nap, a little 15-minute power nap if I get up early, and I did get up early that morning. So I laid down for my little power nap, and I slept 3 hours. So I think fatigue would have been my only symptom, and that was really minimal. So I kept waiting to get notification of my second shot, and it didn't come. So maybe a week later, I went to the website and tried to get back in to get it scheduled. All of February was filled, and the rest of January. So I couldn't do it. And I thought, well, I'm probably not going to be able to get my second vaccination until, a month after my surgery. And then yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, I got an email with an invitation to go in and get scheduled for my second shot. And I had made a few phone calls, and they all ended up referring me either, with a recording, or even if I talked to someone, they would refer me back to that page where you have to fill out all the information and get nowhere. So I would say there's no telephone call or no helpline that would help you get through this. You just have to know what you're doing and persevere, and know how to get around in your computer. And if you're not computer savvy, then get some young person to help you. Figure out the county that you have the website to go to, and how to get registered, and how to go through this process, because it's not easy. It's frustrating, and it takes a lot of patience to keep at it until you succeed. So this morning, last night, I clicked on the link of the invitation, and it actually showed a date of today to get my vaccine. Well, I couldn't get it today because that would have been before the 21 days. Saturday would have been the 21st day after my first vaccination. So I put in Saturday, and there were slots available. And this is only for people getting their second vaccine, is what everything I read said on the website when I went to register. So I'm going to be able to get my second shot on Saturday, 21 days after my first shot, and in time for my surgery. So I'm a happy camper, and I hope this information will, help you who still have yet to get to the point, either because of your age or your patience or your availability of the vaccine. And I know some states just don't have very many available, even for my age group. I have friends in other states that are my age, and they haven't been able to even attempt to sign up because it's not available. So I wish you the best of luck. And thank you, Dr. Campbell, for letting me share my experience. I hope it helps some of you. Bye now.
Great, thanks for that, Sandy.
Hi. And
do you need to be sort of if you can't work computers, it's a bit difficult, isn't it? You know, these things where you can't get to talk to a human being, it drives me mad. So it's a pity that there's no individual there coordinating things, but I'm glad you got it. Saturday, of course, your second dose was yesterday, because you sent me that video a couple of days ago, so thanks for sending that. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that, and of course we wish you all the best possible success and for your forthcoming surgery. Okay, so thanks, Sandy, appreciate that. Personal experiences count for a lot. You know, we like to look at the overall big numbers, but to look at personal experience just brings things to life, I think, doesn't it? Well, just to me. Okay, thank you for watching, of course, and thanks for that, Sandy.